You know, Elvis wasn't to blame. I liked the song. America's Dolly Parton romantic and country music's favoritiacan has charmed the world for decades world with her heart and voice. But what if we told you behind that brilliante, a smile conceals stress, betrayal, epic feuds that never happened headlines? They smiled for cameras. She received popular praise. But behind scenes had slammed doors, nasty words, and lost friendships. The singer declared they'd never cooperate with her again. Someone tried to steal her biggest hit. In spite of her efforts, keep quiet. We know the five artists Dolly hated working with. But what actually happened behind closed doors? Why are those old wounds still open? Once you know the truth, always view Dolly Parton differently again. How Dolly Parton got their fame. Maybe you know her from the big hair, the sparkling clothes, and angel crying voice. But behind the scenes, Dolly Parton holds story more shocking than you think. She went from abject poverty music royalty begins for not many people know about the books that it's dramatic. Also known as the Queen of Kindness, the list has some names industry where she's had intense trouble with. But to comprehend who Dolly clashed with, initially see why she's not one to get involved with drama. Dolly Rebecca Early Life Parton was born January 19, 1946, in Little One-Room, Locust Ridge Cabin, Tennessee. Family raised her lovingly but struggling 12-child family filled a little mountain home. Her father, Lee Parton, worked hard farmer and builder who couldn't write or read. Dolly claims he was the sharpest man she knew. Her mother, before her, Eileen had 12 kids. Turned 35. Her death was certain. Her passion for music, storytelling, got to Dolly. Music wasn't a pastime for Dolly. They survived. The Partons lacked funds for entertainment, so kids learned ta church, singing, and harmonizing porch. Family noticed Dolly's voice. Early on, and by 10, she performed on local radio and TV Knoxville area shows. And it wasn't long before she performed at the Grand Opry. Day following, she graduated high school 1964. She packed up and left for Nashville without money or connections, just skill and dreams larger than the Smokies she left behind. She began with writing music for others. She didn't just want to make songs, she wanted spotlight, which she got. Her first country hit in 1967 with Dumb Blonde. A clever song that basically declared she wasn't just attractive, but smart. But how? When she from Nashville newbie Toglobalican. It started when she joined career Porter Wagner's show. Everything changed in 1967. Millions. She appeared weekly on TV. She duets with Porter were instant hits. Some loved their harmony, synergy, and Dolly's charisma. And by the she began her solo career in the early 70s, and nobody could stop her. Jolene came in 1973 and became anthem. Then came the song I Will Always Love You global hit. Maybe you're questioning Whitney Houston as much after version turned I-tone of the biggest songs ever. Dolly retains rights. She made millions with that song. She never boasts. By the Dolly was everywhere in movies in 1980s. Music, merchandise, etc. She started 9 to 5 with Lily James and Jane Fonda. She showed Tomlin she wasn't just Ash could act and sing. Then came her own theme park, Dollywood, which opened in Pigeon Forge, 1986, Tennessee. Other celebrities bought yachts. Dolly developed a family fun park in her hometown to encourage local economy. But don't let compassion fool you. Dolly's one of the smartest showbiz businesswomen. She wrote throughout thousands of songs, several Lifetime Achievement and Grammys, joined the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is good for a waterless girl growing up. Not only that, she's also given millions of books through her Imagining Library. A project provides kids with literature know wherever they dwell. Over time, Dolly has a reputation for being kind, humble, and drama-free. But even Southern angels have limits. Over the decades, a few names have kept appearing. Persons she collided, underestimated people who believed they could dominate her or credit her shine. Naturally, Dolly remembers. Through it, she may grin. But behind the scenario feuds, tension, her damaged feelings are never forgotten. Point one of the first and possibly most difficult was with a helper begin her career, then control it. You won't believe how professional partnership merged among the messiest national splits music. Parton versus Porter Wagner against Dolly Parton Wagner. Prior to her global fame, Porter Wagner was famous in country tunes. He became famous himself with charisma and voice that any heart could be cut. He wasn't just singer, A true showman that he had his own TV show by the 1960s at the Porter Wagoner Show, one of the largest syndicated country music shows in America. His stage presence was flashy. Behind the scenes, he was sharp, businesslike, and deep traditional. He knew what sold that found Dolly Parton special. Once Dolly Parton joined Porter's show, replacing his earlier female vocalist, Norma Jean, for fans who adored Norma, the swap wasn't welcome at first. People booed Dolly on stage. Some even wrote her angry letters. But Porter insisted in keeping her. And Dolly, she stayed gracious, calm, and determined because she had a point to prove. And it didn't take long for the two to become a hit duo. Their harmonies were electric, and their chemistry was pure gold. Together, they scored over a dozen top 10 hits, songs, and on camera, they looked like the perfect team. But behind the smiles, tension was brewing. Here's the thing. Porter Wagoner didn't just want to sing with Dolly. He reportedly wanted to control her career. He managed her appearances, decided what songs they'd record, and had the final say on most business decisions. But Dolly wasn't just a singer with a pretty face. She was a songwriter, a thinker, and a woman with her own vision. She had ambition that stretched far beyond duet records and guest spots on TV. She played along for years. But the more famous she became, the more she wanted to stand on her own. Soon she was getting frustrated, and she began writing songs that didn't fit the Porter and Dolly mold. She wanted creative freedom, and more importantly, control over her own voice. She later confessed that Porter had a hard time thinking of her as his equal. In the beginning, he had given her a platform. But years later, that same platform had become a cage. Still, she didn't leave right away. She knew she owed him a lot. But by 1973, the tension was unbearable. And in 1974, she left the Porter-sued Dolly Porter Wagoner show. To the public, it looked amicable. But behind closed doors, that was just the beginning. 5 years after she walked away, Porter came back swinging with lawyers. In 1979, he sued Dolly for $3 million, claiming Thatched broken their contract. He said she owed him for management fees, show expenses, and a cut of her income since leaving the show. Dolly was stunned. She had always seen Porter as a mentor, even if they didn't part on great terms. This lawsuit felt like betrayal, and for a while, it got ugly. There were public statements, press coverage, and industry whispers, but Dolly didn't drag him through the mud. Instead, she quietly settled the case out of court. She later spoke about how she didn't want to fight, but just wanted to be free instead. The whole situation took a toll on Dolly emotionally. Porter had meant something to her, and he had been there at the beginning. They'd made history together and, yet he couldn't let her go without a fight. She once said in an interview, "When I was trying to leave the show, I had told Porter I'd stay 5 years. It had been 5, and it was 6, and it was 7. He was just having a really hard time because it was going to mess up his show. We were very bound and tied together in so many emotional ways Andy just would not hear it." That statement said it all. Their feud wasn't just about money. It was much deeper than that. And this revealed an ugly part of Porter that Dolly had never seen before. And this reportedly hurt her stomach. But the good part is that time, as always, changes things. By the late 1980s, after years of being on bad terms, Porter and Dolly had started talking again. In 2002, Dolly did something that surprised a lot of people. She inducted Porter Wagoner into a Country Music Hall of Fame. On stage, she told the audience how much he meant to her, even through their tough times. And when Porter was hospitalized in 2007 with lung cancer, Dolly reportedly visited him. Just weeks later, Porter passed away. Dolly was devastated. She held a tribute concert at Dollywood. Not for the public, not for the headlines, but for the man who helped launch her dreams, even if trying to hold them back. This experience with Porter is probably one of the most complicated chapters of Dolly's career, and one that influenced her in ways few people realize. But this next individual on Dolly's list said something that shocked not only Dolly, but the entire globe. Dolly versus Linda. Dolly Parton versus Linda Ronstadt. They were the Dream Squad. 3 powerhouse women in country music. Dolly Parton, Ronstadt, Emmylou Harris, who collaborated trio, the iconic record. Their voices melded well, creating hits still give chills. But behind scenes weren't all sunshine and choruses, notably between Dolly and Linda. What began musically sisterhood almost collapsed complete conflict in the mid-1970s. Linda, Dolly, and Emmylou were present as stars in themselves. They admired each other's work and envisioned collaborating. However, contradicting record label politics and timetables plans kept getting delayed. They released their first album in 1987. The trio album dropped. The album a hit. Platinum, topped the country charts, and even won a Grammy. Although the music was harmonious, recording sessions were anything else. Dolly, famous, fast work ethic, liked nailing songs in 1 or 2 takes. Linda, on the was a perfectionist, often taking hours to get one voice just right. Mediator Emmy Lou preserving peace. Dolly once revealed working with Linda was like dealing with a diva who loves to leave in the studio and work slowly. She said she wanted to yell Linda several times. And it got worse that everyone saw that their work styles clashed under the tension surface. Despite obstacles, 1994 saw the trio's second album effort. They recorded Trio 2, but label disputes and scheduling issues delayed its release. Thankfully, the album eventually debuted in 1999 was too late. The harm was done that their romance ended. While Dolly and Linda's relationship may begin with mutual admiration, some friendly competition, it surely didn't end well. And Linda was quite open about her Elvis versus Dolly issues with Dolly's inconsistency regarding the project. Linda once attacked Dolly in an interview, saying that she was unreliable during recording sessions. Her claim was that Dolly often canceled or showed up late. It deeply frustrated her. She once remarked she was constantly late, somewhat flaky. It wasn't just about being late. Linda clarified that her opinion was that Dolly didn't respect the process or commitment required at project. Linda thought Dolly she prioritized her solo career. Collaborative effort left a nasty taste each other. That tension between the two caused major problems, friction. Indeed, Linda announced that she would not work with Dolly again. Linda admitted she thought Dolly's lack of professionalism had ruined it. It should be joyful collaboration. Naturally, time heals some wounds years later. Despite the animosity, Linda and Dolly would show reconciliation. But it wasn't awkwardness free. It's evident that both ladies likely still harbored grudge. While they're not hateful towards each other, don't try to revive their friendship. So while the trio legacy lived on, fans celebrated their legendary partnership. Dolly's ears picked up the words, giving her a terrible taste. Elvis Presley. When you think Elvis Presley, you contemplate rock king roll, a cultural icon who transformed permanently, altering music. And then country queen Dolly Parton. Her songwriting has made her famous legend. Despite their legend, one musician had status, a historical moment when two musical giants almost met. But they didn't. Severe tension featuring one famous tune. It began. I'll always remember Dolly's ballad I Love You. This Dolly-written tune in 1973 was personal to her. It was about her departure long-standing mentor Porter Wagner and pursue a solitary career. It started as emotional goodbye. It became one of all-time favorite country tunes time, and Dolly put everything into the lyrics. Song released as a single and became popular, earning popular recognition. But what sheet the moment was that Elvis Presley's squad wanted the song, too. The king desired cover it, and his team was already moving to achieve it. In the mid-1970s, Elvis ruled world. He was known for stealing making other artists' songs his own. When he showed interest in Idly, I Adore You always understandably pleased. However, there was serious. Elvis's manager Colonel Tom Parker had a reputation for expecting outlandish deals on Elvis songs record. And Dolly, just starting make her mark as songwriter, refused to bend. Colonel Parker anticipated taking at least Elvis gets 50% of song royalties recorded. Something Dolly did cannot accept. Not simply about the cash. Respect for her craft. Dolly valued her work. She wouldn't allow anyone take benefit from it. So she turned Presley down. She informed his management, the most important copyright in an entire publishing company, and I can't do things. Dolly often says the deal hurt her deeply. Elvis's squad presented. Although she liked his paintings, this deal felt like a trap, done purposely exploiting her, made her sad. Dolly later confessed that she upset Elvis greatly refusal. She said Elvis had enjoyed the song and wanted to capture it. She felt awful for him, yet recognized that giving in would set a precedent for other artists and managers exploit her in the future. Tension between Dolly and Elvis was more than a song. It was profoundly personal. She tried to bear respecting the situation strained their relationship. and Dolly later admitted she didn't think Elvis ever fully forgiven her for saying no. Dolly has stated in interviews that was devastated by the fallout, especially as she admired Elvis like an artist. She even observed that Elvis was sensitive, and while didn't attack, there was a noticeable difference after that. Dolly ultimately decided to hold on to I Will Always Love You, her best professional choice. Whitney Houston eventually covered it, song, and made it one of the greatest, most successful songs. The success of Houston's version brought song to a new generation and earned Dolly millions royalties. Despite tensions with Elvis, Dolly never regret her decision. She stated that she felt good at defending herself, even if it meant opposing one of top stars of her time. But this Dolly has stood up before for herself under pressure. Mr. Stern. For someone so nice, meek and scandal-free like Dolly, it takes a lot to upset Parton. Feathers. But in 2008, one individual shoved her over. That man was Mr. Stern. Famous for his braggartness and unapologetic lifestyle, drama is nothing new to Howard Stern. That he remains one of the most controversial and significant radio all-time personalities. His show, The Howard Stern Show, burst in popularity throughout the 80s and 90s. Stern built his empire on saying stuff most wouldn't try. To his fans, he was fearless. He was criticized, vulgar and offensive. Also in 2008, Dolly Parton was involved in a highly controversial scandal involving Stern. One of his most problematic passages, his team edited with Dolly's audiobook clips, life and other unfinished business, into a phony interview. They utilized real Dolly voice recordings, joined words and sentences to sound like she said something the most offensive, racist, vile things. The segment sounding like Dolly attacked artists like Kenny Rogers, Linda Ronstadt, and making disrespectful remarks about her body and life. It was supposed to be funny, but far from it. Instead, it was mean, disgusting, and offensive. Stern's crew aired it, and they laughed because that was merely more shocks. For Dolly and full-on fandom for her millions character assassination. Dolly rarely gets upset, usually mad, but not now. Her unusual and heartfelt public statement, "I've never been so in all my amazement, hurt, and humiliation life. Howard Stern's comments are unbelievable. Has done to me in a blue million years. Never would have such vulgarity coming from my mouth." Stern did terrible things. She threatened legal action against him. That was huge because Dolly rarely threatens court. She said, "If ever a lawsuit is coming, I wanted you to know that this crushed me." Fans raged. In country music stations, Dolly fans, and even casual listeners filled forums. Comments protecting her. When the Dolly versus Stern win reaction started, Stern didn't flinch. He didn't say sorry, didn't apologize. Instead, he chuckled, saying it was just a joke. He said it was never meant to hurt her and that others were too sensitive. Stern saw it as satire, but Dolly took it personally. She didn't forgive him. Away. After 2008's awful moment, Howard didn't see Dolly again. Dolly always chose the high road. She never attacked Stern on TV or in public to the press. She let the public know instead. Speak for her. But the wound fans referred to it for years that the feud always. However, something unexpected transpired between them many years later. In 2023, Dolly Parton startled fans by appearing on Howard First Stern Show. At 15 years since the controversy, nobody anticipated her entering that studio. But Dolly had a new goal. She promoted her genre-bending rock album, Rockstar. If there was ever time to leave her comfort zone, now it was. Stern surprised. Respectful. He termed her legendary. He praised her voice and liveliness. For instance, he lowered the sarcasm. However, the tension in room was obvious. It felt like if Dolly hadn't promoted her album, she would never have consented for the show. But Dolly demonstrated against mature and holds ability to modify narrative in her terms. Wilco's Jeff Tweedy. Dolly versus Wilco. Dolly Parton's music status nearly impenetrable. Hardest to imagine public criticism of her work. But like many legends, their people always disagree opinions. The frontman, Jeff Tweedy country band Wilco, wasn't afraid voice his opinions. While Jeff Tweedy is respected for his songwriting, especially indie, and he made alternate country kingdoms making headlines by criticizing Dolly's songwriting and context-wider music scene. And what? Tension ensued between two musical forces leave Dolly very not pleased with the remarks. The drama Jeff Tweedy's interview started discussed Dolly Parton and songwriting. Though Tweedy acknowledged Dolly's musical legacy affect country music, he was quick to say her lyrics are bad, labeling them superficial. He survived. He didn't see her songwriting as profound or important as others in music. Hi Tweedy, Dolly. Songs were more hook-focusless about deep thought lyrics. In one extremely telling interview, Tweedy compared Dolly to songwriters he thought delivered work with more depth. He argued that though Dolly's songs are popular, appeal, they lacked complexity. He believed greatness required songwriting. He even suggested that her success was more about Dolly's personality and less about her depth music. His response about whether he hated Parton was, "No, I love Dolly Parton completely, but she wrote Jolene, and I really love you every day." And maybe she should have stopped after while Tweedy's statements wherein they were undoubtedly cruel critical, especially from someone renowned for his genuinely lyrics that are intimate and abstract. He appeared to disdain Dolly's approach, decreasing her long songwriting successful career to something less what it was. Some reports eventually said Dolly knew Tweets didn't like the comments criticism. Dolly was always proud of her songwriting, with many of her songs being deeply intimate, reflecting her life and experiences. So here's someone undermine a musician in particular. It must have hurt to work. What is even more intriguing, Dolly has openly shared her struggles as a songwriter and that she writing from heart. During interviews, she often talks about her personal life, how lyrics reflect her life and experiences, which makes Tweedy's criticism seems virtually unrelated to her objective. She was old enough to comprehend that despite critics claim her songs resonate with millions, that's what actually matters. Ultimately, Dolly Parton's songwriting legacy undeniable. Whether Jeff Tweedy or another critic likes her work, her music remains that has affected millions. Songs by her been covered by top names, music that crosses genres, generations. Also, her effect as songwriter is ingrained in American music history. Dolly Parton's voyage music has been anything but ordinary. She's experienced many feuds and faced criticism from those inside and outside the sector. She's handled it all gracefully and fortitude only an icon has can. What do you think? Which most affected by these feuds Dolly's career? Tell us what you post your thoughts below. What if you love juicy celebrity deep dives lives? Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to never miss a new video.